Hey guys, this is No Solution. I'm Scott. My clickbait title, Being Ignorant is Awesome, is of course taken from the mighty Anal Cunt from their album It Just Gets Worse. I'll try. I was going to try to show you it down here, but there's so many songs. Anyway. Being Ignorant is Awesome is an Anal Cunt song, and I thought that was a fun title for this video based on what I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to get to that at the end. First, I'm going to be discussing the recent Edge of Sanity reissue, their debut album, Nothing But Death Remains. The reissue, re-release, remix, remaster just came out, so I want to talk about that a little bit. Also, it's kind of become a bit now that I'm not doing Simon's Contest, that I keep putting it off. I really am putting it off because I keep waffling on how I'm going to approach it. And he also sent me some VCLT, another VCLT that I was going to open on that, and I just have been too lazy to get to it. So sorry about that, Simon. I will get to it. Maybe I'll wait till the last day when you give the deadline, and then I'll put my horrible entry in. Speaking of Simon, he had mentioned on some comments that he's not getting notifications anymore about responses to his comments and stuff like that, and I hadn't really noticed it until he said that. And a couple days later, I was like, people that I comment on their videos and they always respond hadn't been responding, at least as far as I know. I wasn't getting notifications, so I went back and checked, and they are responding, but I'm not getting notifications. So I'm wondering if that's a problem that anyone else is having. As far as I can tell, if it's a comment on my video, I'm still getting that, but I'm not getting anything else. So let's go YouTube. Continuing to get worse. What are we gonna do? Go to Rumble? Obviously not. So I guess we're stuck here and we just do whatever they say. So anyway, let's get to the Edge of Sanity. So like I said, this is their debut album, Nothing But Death Remains. Here's the original CD. And one thing that was talked about in the booklet was that this cover painting was done by the father of one of the band members, and I'm sorry I didn't write it down. I can't remember who now. But it was originally brown, and the record label Black Mark decided to change it to blue. I think it was a better decision, and the band kind of agrees. So that's kind of like the color it was before. They do show it in the booklet, but this picture is super tiny. Let's see if I can. There we go. So that's the original painting right there. I do think the blue definitely stands out more. So there's that. But yeah, really cool. Like, I mean, the slipcase exactly the same as the album cover, which I think is super dumb, but that's what they're doing, so okay. But very thick booklet. Got a long write-up about the process of recording the album and what was going on with the guys at the time, and lots of cool photos. Not really a recreation of the original booklet, but the original booklet just kind of had a different photo and the lyrics, so it's not that big a deal. Yeah, you got the lyrics, more photos. I'm really impressed with these. They're kind of expensive, I guess, for what they are for a reissue. They're going for like $22. But this is kind of one of my favorite bands, so I'm probably just going to end up getting them all. This one I was kind of waffling on because the bonus material is basically two different mixes of the same album. So we've got the original version, which they recorded, turned in, and then Boss, who was the label owner of Black Mark, remixed it himself, or mixed it himself, and had a different mix than what the band had turned in, so they were not very happy about that. So that's the original mix. This version has the first disc is a remaster from 2024, and then disc 2 is a remix from 2024, and then their original rough mix from 1991, which is what they turned in, that then got, tinkered with. So what I will say is, the original mix is not on here, which kind of always bothers me. Like, why don't you? I want a definitive version. Put everything. If you're doing like a reissue campaign, put everything on that reissue. So that's the only version you need. However, I will say, if you do not have the original mix, I would say you don't need it. Every mix on here, I think, is superior to the original. Just to, in case you're not familiar, this is kind of the most like straight death metal Edge of Sanity ever was. A bit thrashy, kind of. They're moving out of thrash and into death metal a bit more. Very short album, like 31 minutes, but really cool, and some hints of like kind of the progressive elements they would incorporate later. Every song in here is from one of their previous demos, except for one song called Tales, which is has a bit more to it and has like a keyboard intro and stuff like that. So if you are a fan of, early 90s death metal, I would say if you don't already have this, definitely pick it up. I feel like if this album came out from a band that they just put this out and then disappeared, this would kind of be a cult item. As it is, Edge of Sanity kind of went on to more famous albums and, in my opinion, better albums. So this one, I think, doesn't get talked about very much, but it is a solid, good album. So I'm not an audiophile at all, so I'm just going to give you my basic thoughts. The original mix sounds quite harsh to my ears. Even at 31 minutes, you kind of get ear fatigue listening to it. I feel like it's kind of tinny, but also the bass is too heavy. I feel like if it was like an old school equalizer, it would look like a U, like treble high, bass high, no mid. I don't know. The band doesn't like it, and they're the ones who made the album. So I don't think it's very great either. The remaster on disc 1 is, I guess, the most faithful to the original mix, but kind of mellows it out a bit, kind of evens everything out. I think it's a much more pleasant listening experience. Then on disc 2, we've got the remix from 2024, which Dan had said he always wanted to do. Dan Swano, the mastermind of the band, and also a prolific producer. So he remixed the whole album, and it sounds great, in my opinion. I think going forward, that's the mix I'm going to be listening to, is the 2024 remix. That is only on the CD. The vinyl is just the remaster version. And then we've got the rough mix from 91, which is, it's a much more raw production, but also much more pure, I guess. They're not a bunch of tinkering with it. Some of the keyboard parts aren't even on there, and there's a bit of kind of studio chatter in there too. But that's apparently the mix they turned in originally that got altered by the label boss. So that songs are in a different order. But yeah, I think really disc 2 is where it's at on here. If you want a more raw, kind of pure sound, I would go for the rough mix. If you want the best this album has ever sounded, go for the remix. So yeah, I would recommend this if you're an Edge of Sanity fan, even if you have the original. And if you don't have the original, you don't need it now. Just get this, I would say. So that is the Nothing But Death Remains reissue. I think they've been doing a great job with those and the Nightingale reissues, and I'll probably just keep buying them because I have not been disappointed so far. So my title of Being Ignorant is Awesome. I made a video a while ago talking about kind of willful ignorance, or basically uncurious people who will just write something off without even checking it out, or just dismiss something out of hand. And I realized that I got to call myself out, because I do that too. And the big one that came to mind right now is Lou Reed. I've never liked Lou Reed. I've always considered him kind of a fraud, kind of a poser. But people that I respect their opinions, like Mark Morris and Brian the Embryonic Robot, are big Lou Reed fans. And they're intelligent guys with good tastes, and they're also both very handsome. I wanted to throw that in there in case I'm insulting them. So when people like that kind of sing Lou Reed's praises, it makes me think I'm really missing something. And I'm left with a quandary. Should I actually seriously listen to Lou Reed? I've hated him for so long. I feel like it's a part of my personality. I think it goes back to when I got into Frank Zappa, like around when he died, like the mid '90s. I was still kind of a young man, and just reading about Zappa, and apparently there was some kind of acrimony between he and Lou Reed, and on the Zappa side, people said that Lou Reed was jealous because Frank Zappa put out like the first few Freak albums before Lou Reed did, before the first Velvet Underground album, and that apparently they didn't like each other, and then Lou Reed was of course a darling of Rolling Stone, who is in charge of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And then when Frank Zappa died, they had Lou Reed induct him, which was kind of seen as another fuck you to Frank Zappa. So there's all this. I mean, that shit don't matter, right? That's high school shit. Like, you have to like Judas Priest or Iron Maiden. You have to like the Beatles or Rolling Stones. We can all like what we want. But that's just kind of in my head about Lou Reed. And anything I've ever heard from Lou Reed, I hate his vocals. I fucking hate the way he looks. His dopey glasses and his stupid curly hair. I don't know. He's always just been very off-putting to me. But people I respect like him, so I feel like should I confront my prejudice and actually listen to him? I full disclosure, this is the only Lou Reed album I've sat all the way through. This is Lulu, the album he did with Metallica. It's billed as Lou Reed and Metallica, and I feel like it's a Lou Reed album with Metallica on it. It's fucking terrible. Like, it's so bad it's funny until it's not anymore. And my little tagline I had for this is, do you want to listen to a Metallica rehearsal and then a senile junkie wanders in and starts mumbling into the microphone? I know this isn't thought of highly by Lou Reed fans either, so that's probably not fair. What is the Metal Machine Music? I know is this one that is like, I think he's even said that it was like a fuck you to the record company and a fuck you to his fans, and then the fans defend it, and then he tried to walk it back later. I don't know. I feel like just his whole persona, and I feel like he's a arty poser. But then again, I don't know. I have not sat and really got into Lou Reed and tried to understand it. Just in the last year, I've never liked Bob Dylan, and then I finally gave him a chance, and now I'm a big Bob Dylan fan, or as big as you can be, with that short time span. So I don't know, but I think I've decided. It's just fun to hate Lou Reed. I don't know. I just still want to hate him, and that cuts out a whole chunk of music I don't have to worry about. So I don't know. I guess I'm just admitting I'm wrong. I'm gonna still hate Lou Reed. I'm gonna try to keep my uninformed comments to a minimum. Like Mark Morris in his last video just talked about how excited he was to get the Berlin record from Lou Reed, and I was gonna poke fun at it, and I was like, I probably shouldn't. So this is my final fuck you to Lou Reed. I'm probably never gonna like him. I'm probably never gonna give him a chance. So this will continue to be the only Lou Reed album I have, and I'll probably never listen to it again. But it says Metallica on the spine, so I'm gonna keep it. So I think I just called myself out, and I called myself out to all of you. So there it is. If I try to act perfect, that is my admission that I am also full of prejudices and not entirely correct most of the time. So I will be doing Simon's contest video at some point. And I guess that's all there is today, guys. Sorry, this was a bit of a rambling one. I didn't really take many notes, so hopefully it wasn't too painful. Thanks for watching, as always, and CM Punk continues to be a piss baby. Later.